moving on from assets now, another aspect of planning that I think is always or often sort of tangential to Medicaid planning is the use of special needs trusts. And we hear a lot about these being used in this context. How do special needs trusts work, and what are the scenarios where they might come into play with a person who is doing Medicaid or long-term care planning?
Yeah, the first, one of the main uses for a special needs trust in our planning is for estate planning. So let me give you an example. If a couple comes in and we do all of this Medicaid planning so that the disabled spouse can get onto Medicaid, we need to follow through and make sure that if the spouse passes away first, that they don't inadvertently disqualify their spouse because of all those inherited resources coming back to the Medicaid spouse. That's a double grief. First of all, you've lost your spouse, and then also you've been disqualified for this benefit plan that you worked hard to get onto. So we use testamentary special needs trusts and estate planning quite often to prevent that. What that allows you to do is make those funds available for the disabled spouse, but not count against them for Medicaid. And that's a real benefit for a lot of our clients, where you think you're doing all the planning for this one spouse, but really the other spouse passes away first. A second big role is when we have clients who are under 65, because if they're under 65 and looking at needing long-term care, they may transfer their own assets into a special needs trust during their lifetime, and that's not penalized as a gift. It does have a Medicaid payback requirement, but it allows the person to stretch out using those funds for their own benefit, even after they go onto Medicaid. So if you're single and you're only allowed to have $2,000 accountable resources, it can be really nice if you also have money in a special needs trust for your benefit to pay for things that Medicaid won't pay for. One more thing where it's really important is when our clients come in and they're not quite eligible for Medicaid and they'd like to give money away, but they don't want to trigger a gifting penalty. So we always ask, do you have anyone that you want to give this money to who's disabled? Because there are times when you can transfer money to a disabled person without it triggering your own penalty period. But of course, you don't want to knock that person off of their benefits or make them ineligible. So a lot of times we set up special needs trusts so that they can make a gift that protects them because they can go onto Medicaid, but also protects the person they're giving the money to so that they can maintain their benefits.
Right. One of the things that you touched on there, I think is interesting, is there's, I think, this perception that the only reason to do Medicaid planning is to preserve your assets for your children or your heirs, or your spouse for that matter. But another side of that is your own care and your own expenses. And nursing homes or assisted living facilities, they don't cover every conceivable or provide every conceivable service. And sometimes the base package requires one level of care, but your quality of life could actually be significantly improved if you could afford to purchase some additional care or some particular service that isn't included.
Yeah, one great example is transportation. We have clients who have special needs trusts and they're living in a long-term care facility. And instead of relying on the public, it's called the Access program here in Seattle, they can call an Uber or they can use their own, a cabulance company using funds from a special needs trust. And for some of my clients who live out of town and have a lot of medical appointments in the city, this makes a huge difference for them. So something as simple as being able to pay for private transportation can make a big difference for folks.